Welcome to the Good Rookie Show. My name is Faheem.
And my name is Nelly J, y'all. And we are good rookies.
That's right.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Good Tuesday. And guess what? It's the Good Rookie Show.
Yep.
What's going on, y'all? As you know, we're your hosts from Toronto, bringing you the hottest in sports and culture. And this week is no different. And we have an amazing guest joining us today, Faheem. Please introduce who we got.
All right. Well, the timing with this couldn't be better. Someone who's going to drop a lot of jewels for a time that we all look forward to. He's a return guest, actually. So if you haven't caught him before on the previous episodes, be prepared to be enlightened. Let's welcome Matthew Maurer to the podcast today.
Matthew. What up, Matthew? How you doing, man?
Oh, what's good? What's good, everybody? I'm so happy to be back.
Nice.
No, we're happy
Great
to
time
have
last
you.
time.
We're happy to have you, man. I mean, you were on here. I think it was like one of Fahim's favorite episodes. I remember he's like, that was a really good episode. I'm are you?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's about you, Matthew, but you dropped a lot of gems that I'm sure everyone listening and watching are going to be so enlightened by you today. I want to start with the first topic because this is the topic. We're in March Madness right now. We're in March Madness. Okay. That's huge. And so we have 53 Canadians. It's a record-breaking 53 Canadians combined, women's and men's, in this tournament. So I want to start off with that. Shout out to everyone that's playing. I think we had 30 last year for him. Now we're at 53. So clearly we got something happening, Matthew, and we definitely want to get into that and for the culture. But Faheem, let's get zoned in on this March Madness topic we have going on today.
So for the March Madness, I guess we're gonna go with the lead with Matthew, and let us know what you think in regards to what's happening with March Madness. Any predictions or any thoughts that you have with the March Madness
overall?
Yeah, I mean, predictions for me are never strong in March Madness just because it is madness. And anytime I get in one of these pools, people are like, "Oh, I know you're going to win," and I never do because I'm always overthinking and overanalyzing. And the person that wins is the person that doesn't really watch college basketball a lot because they're just picking schools, and that's honestly, it's crazy. I mean, that's why this tournament is so important to people, and that's why people love it. It's because anything can happen. You know, a mid-major could beat a high major. It happens all the time, every year. So, I mean, people love it.
So do you have any, I will talk about the eighth, ninth, or 10th seed. Someone always in those numbers kind of overperform or kind of have an excellent tournament. Is there any school or is there any schools in those rankings and any of the brackets that you think, oh, they might have a really good tournament?
Yeah, I think at school that a lot of people don't know about, TCU, Texas Christian. I think they could have a really good game. Florida Atlantic, which I believe you're referencing, they had
That's
really
what it's
good
called,
program.
Florida Atlantic. Thank you. I'm like, what's that Florida school he's talking about? Yeah. Big up to Smooth, by the way. That was his prediction. Yep.
Yeah, that was his prediction. Yeah. And I just really think, this is the type of tournament that if you have senior laden teams, guys that know each other really well, have played with each other for 4 years, they can go in there and cause some havoc. I think Providence is going to be a tough game for Kentucky. I mean, there's really great. This is one of the rare years where there's really hard games in each bracket in each sector, East, South, West, and Midwest. It's just tough. This is the first time I've really struggled on a bracket, so I'm looking forward to seeing how wrong I am.
Yeah, well, by the time this comes out, we'll be done the first round of 64. Quick question for you, right? Because your expertise is the NBA draft. You study the draft. You have your website. You do so much research and database. It's like you're a historian of the game. How important is a player's performance in a March Madness for the draft? Like, if you're, let's say, if you're like ranked 4 stars or 3 stars, and then you have an amazing showcase at this tournament, can that bump you up in the draft class? And the reason why I'm asking is because I remember a guy named Steph Curry, who wasn't really the biggest star rating. I think he was a 3-star rating, Matthew. Am I correct in that? Was he a 3-star?
Yep.
And I remember the first time I saw Steph Curry was in March Madness because back then I didn't watch college basketball. Canada wasn't showing games like that. And ESPN, I don't think TSN, I don't think they were partnered yet at that time. So I would kind of learn about college players in a March Madness tournament because they showed all those games, over here. So I remember seeing this guy, Steph. I'm like, he's so small, but this guy has heart. Like, I remember I was so impressed with him. And so I was a fan of Steph from the March Madness tournament. And lo and behold, we see, decades later, we saw he's 4 rings and he's the guy, right? People call him top 10, discussion for a different day. So for me, I feel like March Madness really showcased what Steph can do, but that could be an outlier, Matthew. Is there any correlation in March Madness performance and how you kind of perform on a big stage with potentially, being drafted to a team?
I'd say yes and no. I mean, it depends. I mean, I think for guys that have already played at a really high level throughout the year, I don't think if they had a bad game, for example, I don't really think that really impacts them much on their stock. But I do think if you're a guy who maybe you haven't caught lightning during the season and you go in the tournament and you really catch fire. I mean, we saw that in 95 with Antonio McDyess. It launched him to be the number 2 pick overall. We've seen this with Joakim Noah. He really, exploded. So yeah, it does help. CJ McCollum's another one. I mean, he carved up Duke in the tournament a couple years ago. So like it definitely puts you on the mind of scouts because it's like that old saying, what have you done for me lately? And when they watch you and that's the last thing they remember, it does seem to have a lasting impression sometimes.
Wow. The lasting impression. That's huge. So essentially, this is why some teams. So essentially, if I'm a player and I know I'm not maybe, wow, I might be want to show off, right, Faheem? Because this is like my last dance, essentially for some of these guys. But like guys like Shaedon Sharpe didn't play in the tournament, but he got drafted high anyway. Ben Mathurin, when he was in Arizona, I'm trying to remember how he performed in March Madness.
Oh, he was highly touted all season.
I know all season highly touted, right? So, so I guess you're saying the guys that are really highly touted, they can do whatever, but the guys that are like lower, it can be a boost. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Any thoughts on that, Faheem? Any thoughts on what
I was actually thinking of a player's like for instance, Ed O'Bannon back in the day. Ed O'Bannon, especially being a Raptor fan, when we got during the draft, Ed O'Bannon had a decent tournament. He was not really highly touted, but high profile. And a lot of Raptors fans wanted him just mainly off of how he did in the NCAA tournament over Damon Stoudemire at the time. And Damon Stoudemire had a decent tournament also, right? But I mean, yeah, I totally agree. That totally checks out in regards to if you're highly touted. Actually, a name that comes to mind is, for instance, Jabari Parker, highly touted before. Duke early elimination didn't really affect his stock too much,
No.
Yeah. So you're right. So is there anybody this year that you can think of, Matthew, that maybe is below the radar, that maybe could be that gem that if they have a decent tournament can move up in the draft at all?
Well, he's starting to catch fire with some guys in the lottery, but I think Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana is a guy that if he really has a couple big games that could push him even further in a lot of conversations. Noah Clowney from Alabama, he's been floating kind of like that late first. And even though Alabama's number 1 seed, if he has some really big games, I think that could launch him. So I think that's what this is for guys like Brandon Miller, who are at Alabama, who are top 5 guys. It's not really going to affect much what they do. People are already pretty comfortable with their evaluations on him, but guys like Noah Clowney, guys that, fighting for that first round, that it could be huge for them if they have great games and great tournament games.
So self-admitted, college basketball, I probably say over like the last maybe 3-4 years, I have completely fallen out of college basketball. March Madness is usually when I kind of figure out what's going on. The fact that you're saying Alabama is number 1 is actually shocking to me because Alabama is not a program usually.
Well, you were busy, Faheem. You're having a child, so you probably couldn't watch college.
Yeah. So Alabama's number 1 team. Are they a program now? Is that what's happening real quick, Matthew?
Yeah. I mean, they've been getting some really good transfers. They got some really good recruits, and they've ridden it to a very good showing this year. This is probably one of Alabama's best teams of all time that they've had in program's history. So Yeah, they're looking really good this year.
Wow. I'm just thinking back. Alabama has never been a program. Maybe I'm trying to think who went to Alabama that went to the league. Did Anthony
Antonio
McDyess?
McDyess, one of the guys I
McDyess,
mentioned.
right.
Yeah,
Outside of
James
McDyess.
Robinson, Robert
Okay.
Ory, Latrell Sprewell.
Robbie Sprewell. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not really a program. Okay, I want to ask this. HBCUs this year, I've noticed. I did see like there's a showcase tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything? What do you think about, since you have your pulse more on people who are going into draft? How far are we off to having someone from an HBCU? Anything on your
First
radar
round, second
that's coming
round,
up?
anyone you
Anything?
think could like do
Still,
that?
there's still that big divide, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, yeah.
Mhm.
We seem to get an HBCU prospect about that's NBA quality about every 10 years. I think like Kyle Quinn, who played at Norfolk State, was the last one. So we get them about every 10 years where there's a guy that comes in and teams are on them. But for the most part, it's a struggle.
I have a question for you guys, and I think Matthew will have the answer, but I gotta ask Matthew this question. Okay. And for those listening too, I just learned this week. So when was the last time do you guys think we had a back-to-back tournament MVP? So I guess they called it most outstanding player in a March Madness tournament. When do you think was the last time we actually had a back-to-back winner of this tournament? Most past winners for this tournament.
Is it Noah?
Who?
Is it Joakim Noah?
No, he won in 06, but he wasn't a back-to-back winner for the tournament. But he did win in 06.
Okay, help us with the school.
So the last time someone won back-to-back, again, this is very tough to do.
Just give us the school. We'll see if we can get the player.
So he went to, from what I see here, but he's going to know, Matthew's going to know, UCLA in the 70s.
Oh, in the 70s.
Oh,
I think I know. Oh, go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah. Bill Walton?
Yep. That's the last time someone won a back-to-back most astounding player in the tournament. Bill Walton won in 1972 and 73 for UCLA. And then after him, it was another UCLA alumni who won 3 times in a row. Who was that in the 60s?
Oh, well, that's going to be Kareem.
Yeah. No, not Kareem. No.
It's not Kareem?
No.
UCLA in the 60s.
67, 68. My bad. It was Kareem. Yeah, I forgot.
Okay.
Okay.
I was gonna say
it was a little while because I forgot his name before he. Remember, Kareem was changed.
Oh, Lou Alcindor.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it is Kareem. It's Kareem. Yeah. So he won 3 years in a row.
Wow.
And after him was Sydney. Yeah, Wicks. So yeah, like it's crazy how like even in the past decade, it's always been, I see lots of North Carolinas, lots of yeah, they actually have had quite a bit in the 2000s North Carolina. I'm seeing North Carolina, Kansas is second to North Carolina in terms of most outstanding players. So yeah, it's interesting how like time has changed, but because we have the NBA now, and you can do one and done.
Right.
Back to backs, but it's just
and the
cool
G League
that.
And going overseas and so many different options.
So many options.
Before we get to For the Culture, though, let me ask. So Wembanyama, Scoot, these are the big names. We have Zach Edey, who's making names.
Let me just add there. Zach Edey was the only unanimous vote for the first NCAA team basketball team. Everyone voted for him for a first team, so that's hasn't happened in a long time. Yeah.
All right. So real quick, just I'll throw out some names. Just give me your thoughts real quick because there's a lot of hype. Tell me if first of all, if you back the hype, if you believe it, and anything else, you got it. So we'll go. Let's start with Wembanyama, real quick.
I back it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You back it? Really?
I think he's legit. I think the biggest worry with him I have is durability. I mean, guys that big that play the way he does. I mean, the last time we had a guy like him was 49 years ago. That was Ralph Sampson coming out of high school in 79. So, like, that's how long ago. So these guys don't grow on trees when you're 7'4" and you have that type of mobility. So,
right. Okay. Obviously, Scoot. We saw Scoot a little bit at All-Star Weekend a bit, but anything on Scoot? Is he as advertised, you think?
I think he is, but there is rumblings that, well, I don't think it's rumblings. I think this is something that's been talked about and Nelly knows in Clubhouse for a while now, which is I think Brandon Miller there's some talk that he might take him the number 2 pick there.
Yes, I've been hearing that a lot. I'm gonna say
Really?
Brandon Miller.
Okay.
He's 6'9", he's 200, has size. He can pretty much, I mean, averages 20, almost a double. He's yeah, I mean, he's really good. Really good.
All right. And last one, I'll go with Zach Edey. Anything on Edey, real quick?
He's a polarized. I don't back the hype, but he's a polarizing guy. I think he's going to be very difficult for evaluators because he kind of fits in that old school mold. And I don't know if he has the conditioning to play at the level that I think people are going to expect him to play at. But look, I think a team definitely going to take a chance on him. I have him right now as an early 2nd round pick, but I would not be shocked if somebody takes him in the 1st round.
Wow. So a unanimous college player of the year type, and you have him in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
That's a big gap between what everyone. Wow.
Well, you got to remember, Luka Garza from Iowa was player of the year. He almost went undrafted. And Kofi Coburn from Illinois, he went undrafted, and he was first team American. So it happens. It's getting more and more difficult when you're in college, and even though you dominate, if you don't fit a certain stereotype and a certain mold of the modern player at that position, there's going to be problems for you.
Okay, and there's a buzzword called generational talent that seems to be the last few years. I think people are just throwing out there.
Yeah.
Is Wembanyama, is he the generational talent that people are pegging out to be? I'll land there.
Man, potentially yes.
Really? Wow. Okay.
It all depends on the durability. If they can get 8 years out of him, we got a good shot at seeing the generational talent pay off. Yeah.
Okay.
I could ask you some questions about a few guys that I had kind of pegged for him as well. So one guy I wanted to ask about, they're with Overtime Elite. There's Amen, right? Thompson twins, right?
Yep.
What's your thoughts on them? Do you think they're going to be top 5? Lots of buzz around the Thompson twins. What's your thoughts?
I think they'll both go in the top 10. I think Amen is probably the one that people are more poised to get because he has a more natural playmaking ability. But his other brother, Asar, he's really good at spot-up shooting, a little bit better scorer than Amen is. But Amen's playmaking ability is why I think he'll be the first Thompson twin to go.
Yeah, I saw a lot of lists had Amen going above him. So, but some lists that have them both going as lottery picks. So I was like, ooh, I want to get your thoughts on that. You don't think they'll both be lottery picks, or do you think they'll probably be like just top 10?
I think they'll both be in the top 10. I think they're both lottery.
Okay. And then, so the few guys that on some drafts that I'm seeing, they're picking Raptors to pick. I saw this guy. I don't think I've seen him before. Bryce Sensabaugh from Ohio State.
Yeah. Yep.
What's your thoughts on him?
He's kind of cut from that, like a Sadiq Bey type mold. A natural scorer, very smooth, scores effortltly. I don't know if he has
score. That's why I'm asking, because we need a scorer, man.
I don't know if he's great at shot creation, but he's really good at. He just has a natural feel for scoring. So I mean, he's very smooth out there.
Okay, and then I know we talk about wanting a point guard, and I see a few point guards that are on the 1st round that I've seen a couple of lists. So there's in Indiana's point guard, Jalen.
Yep.
Jalen Hood. Is this
Shafino?
Yep. Is it Shafino? His last name?
Yep.
Okay.
You got it.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on him? I know it's a freshman year, but he's kind of high in quite a few drafts.
Yeah, I don't really peg him as a point guard. I think he can do it in spot up duty, but I mean, to me, he's more of a natural 2.
Okay.
More scoring instincts than passing. So, which could be a good thing. I mean, that was the knock on Fred VanVleet coming out of Wichita State. So
yeah. Well, the fact that you say he's a 2 guard, because he's like 6'6", he's like a bigger type, guard. But if he has, point guard ability, I just think we need a bigger guard playing with Scotty. So I was thinking if Scotty can do the passing, and again, if Fred leaves Toronto, I was thinking if we have Scotty the 1, he'd be a good 2 guard. He's 6'6", he has size, and how about like his shot creation? Do you think he can create his own shot? Is he a natural shooter? Like, what's your thoughts on
Oh,
those things?
that's what he does really well.
Okay.
He can score in bunches. He's a very explosive scorer. He's the type of guy that, halftime he'll have 2 points. And by the end of the game, he'll have 20. It's not very hard for him to really go off.
To go off. To see Faheem.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at Faheem. I don't know if you've seen him before yet, Jalen, but that's someone I think just based on like what I've read, I'm like, he'd be a good fit with Scotty. I'm just thinking about who we keep, who can fit in our mold, and we need someone that can score easily or to get a bucket. It's not a lot of work to do. A lot of times with the Raptors, Matthew, if you watch our games, it's like sometimes we go in droughts, like that game against Denver, we won, but for 3 minutes we didn't get a single bucket. No one could get a bucket, nobody. So like having someone that we know can shoot, can score, can create their shot, and it's not hard. Like they make it look easy.
Right.
That's what I'm looking for. You know what I'm saying? So it's good that there's some folks. But I found in the first round, there isn't that many point guards or guards really like being touted. Well, I might lie. A lot of shooting guards and wings, but there isn't that many centers. Is that just a trend? Is it now, we're everyone's looking for shooters too. So it's like they're looking for twos, and there's rarely that many centers in the first round, Matthew.
Yeah, the center position is being cramped out. You have teams now really getting power forwards that can be hybrid, that can play both positions now. So yeah, if you're a center and you don't have certain, so if the two makes that they look for now is, are you a rim runner like a Jackson Hayes, like a Clint Capella, or are you a guy that can be an offensive guy? That's really the two molds they're looking for. If you don't fit that mold immediately, they kind of get a little shy about selecting you really high in the first round. I think a guy that, I think could be good for Toronto as well would be Terquavion Smith from North Carolina State. He's very dynamic in the open court, athletic, quick, can create his own shot in a hurry. He's a tough player, and I really like him. I think he's a real underrated guy. Kobe Buffkin from Michigan is another guy that can create shots off the dribble, really good at shot creation. I think he's one of the best in the nation in this draft in terms of creating. If you just go look on YouTube, you really see how easily he creates. He's a guy that I think it could be another target.
Wow, that's good. I hope everyone's writing these players down because we definitely want to see them and how they, play in the tournament. But Matthew, thank you, because I think that a lot of times, it's good to watch the tournament knowing who to look out for, knowing like which players to kind of evaluate in a sense. But now you dropped a lot of knowledge, y'all. Thank you so much.
I want to throw this one just real quick before we transition into our For the Culture. I got to get squeezed this. I got to ask you. We all know this saying, and it's been around forever. You can't teach height.
Yep.
That's been there forever. The game is changing, and the height guys, even their role has changed. Is there a new saying amongst scouts or that like an maybe an updated version of you can't teach height? Is there something that you can look at a player and say, hey, you know what, he might not have the other things, but he has this? Is there anything else that you could think of, Matthew?
Well, when I first started in '98 for evaluating players, the old adage was, if he can run and chew bubble gum at the same time, he's got a shot.
Right.
So he has the coordination, and he's somewhat athletic, and he's tall. He has a shot. Now it's more of, all right, can he run, chew bubble gum? Can he shoot a little bit? And is he athletic? Now that seems to be, it's a lot more that's heaped on to guys. And I think in this era of the open court that we see in the NBA, I think the demand for big players to switch now and defensive sets is massive. It's huge. These guys really have to have better lateral movement than most centers of that time. I mean, a couple years ago, Roy Hibbert was an all-star. He would struggle in this era right now with being able to pick up guys in transition defense. So the demands of the center position have definitely changed somewhat.
Okay. No, that checks out. All right, Nelly J, I think it was that time. Let's go for the culture.
For the culture, we like to highlight individuals that are doing things for the culture. And today we get to highlight the one and only draft analyst, evaluates NBA pros, prospects. The only one that does this for him of record. historian to track and educate us on all the drafts of the Draft Review database, Matthew Maurer, the one and only Matthew Maurer. So, Matthew, we're so excited to have you on the podcast because legit, what you do, no one else is doing. Like,
wow.
I think people go to you for research, but like you're actually getting like on your Instagram, you will like legit have like a snippet of an article of like the 1950s because it's so old and like faded. I'm like, how does Matthew even find this stuff? But like,
Yeah.
you really are like I call you the archaeologist of the NBA. You know, like finding all of these like rare pieces of draft history of the NBA itself. But it's so crazy that you said you started from 1998 and now you have a podcast you're doing. You've been in publications, CBS Sports, ESPN, NBA.com, Eurobasket, Vice Sports, and you name it, and beyond, of course. I feel like what you're doing right now is not going to stop. So please tell everyone about the Draft Review, about the database, about the website, and the weekly podcast. I didn't even know you were doing that. It's called On the Wire as well. So Matthew, please tell the folks more about what you're up to, man.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, basically, you know, when I first started, I would run into people and they would tell me stories about guys, and I was really young at the time, and they would die, and the stories would be gone, and I didn't have anything. Then I'd say, man, that's terrible. Like, so like the history was dying, literally. So I made it a mission to track down every single player, height, weight, where they went to school, every college statistic that they had at whatever level that they played at, photos, everything I could find on any player that's ever been drafted. We've recently did the first 3 rounds of the first 3 years of the BAA, that's the Basketball Association of America, which was the precursor to the NBA. So that's 47, 48, 49. We did that first round. I have a museum that I'm doing. I'm writing a book. So there's a lot of stuff I've been doing in the back. That's why I don't come on, and I'm always busy. I'm always doing something. But yeah, that's pretty much. I mean, there's so much that I'm working on just to try to make this more tangible and a better experience for people so they can understand some of the history that the NBA has to offer.
So I got to talk about this museum, first of all. And the fact that you saw that there was a need because, like, we know people of color, people want to tell our story for us, but I just always think it's great when we see someone looking like us tell the story because I feel like the lens typically is a lot more objective and it comes from a voice that is not just trying to, taint or, like create a narrative, right? So
right.
I'm happy to see, because growing up we never had that. So happy to see that you are doing that, of course. Please don't. I want to say, please don't. What's that guy's name? The guy who went after Reddick. Reddick who went after Reddick.
Andrew Perkins.
Yeah, don't Perkins me, y'all. You know what I meant when I said okay. I'm like, oh, Janelle said people that are white can't tell history. No, I'm saying seeing someone of color telling history is refreshing. People want to twist your words. You know what I'm saying? But what I want to talk about really is about this museum. So walk us through the whole museum vision. Is that going to be like at a school? Is it going to be in a museum? You're going to have a section. Walk us through that vision for us.
I'm still in the planning stages of it. I mean, right now, I've been acquiring pieces from private collectors, letters that were written by NBA personnel about the draft. We have every NBA draft guide from 1980 to present day. We're doing all sorts of crazy stuff in terms of so one of the things that we're planning on doing is like the 1980 draft was held at the Sheraton in New York. So we've been buying pieces of the hotel memorabilia for that and recreating that stage and that process. That's one of the things we're doing. So we're really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to give an interactive thing that you can go in and you can research and you can find history on it and you can touch it. And more important than that, it's also going to be available online. So there's all types of things that we're doing to try to, again, continue to push so that people can get a sense of just what the draft was like in 1980 when it was first televised and to what it is today. So
that's amazing, Matthew. That's like reminds me of when I went to the Smithsonian. I walk into like, they have like they'll have like, old dresses of like past, queens or different stuff that people wore as presidents' wives, whatever. They'll have like different like outfits and like whatever. So that's dope. They're gonna have an actual like interactive museum. Those are actually quite popular. Like I've been to them. I know in Toronto we have one for him for like Marvel, where like you can go in, you can see all the Marvel. It's kind of interactive Marvel experience. So you want to create like a basketball history experience with that draft itself, which I think is interesting. My next question for you is kind of different. So you've been studying the draft all these years. Tell me about how social media has changed how the draft is. Because I feel like now folks don't really have to watch the draft. They can just like legit go on Twitter. And I think Twitter now streams some videos too now, but you can go on Twitter and you can just see the draft come up and you can interact with people on Twitter based on your team drafting. Has social media helped make the draft more popular in a sense, or has it made it more interactive? What's your thoughts on how it's affected the draft itself?
I think it's been way more interactive. I mean, when I first started just collecting data on players in '96, you had periods of time where like a guy would get drafted and you wouldn't know anything, just because that data wasn't available. I mean, now a guy gets drafted, you can just hit a couple keywords on YouTube, you can get a video, you can see how he can play. There's usually somebody on Twitter that will talk about maybe I seen this guy at a tournament. Let me tell you about him. And so there's a lot more interactive and a lot more fresh content that's available to people if they're curious about a player that was drafted. And I think people have contact to be able to go into a room, like audio room, like Twitter Spaces, and get an immediate feel for like what was our draft like. So like last year, I remember I got into it with a couple Raptors fans about Christian Koloko.
Yeah.
And I'm going to toot my own horn. What Walker Kessler has been what I said he was going to be.
Yes, you did. You called it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yep, you did.
But again, that's the thing though. And I'm not saying that to throw dirt on anybody, but I'm just saying like, that's the thing. You can get that immediate like reaction and say like, oh, I thought we had a good draft. And then somebody who maybe does it, you can get that immediate push and say, well, yeah, you guys did all right, but don't get your hopes up too high for this guy. You know what I mean? So it's that type of stuff. We didn't really have that in the 90s. We didn't have that in the 2000s when I founded NBADraft.net. We didn't have any of that. So like just the whole process of being able as a fan or a person who, runs a team site, you can just immediately get data. It just wasn't available to us in the 90s and 2000s early.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I think social media has even helped with the women's side as well, because I found that they never really got that coverage, but because of online, you can learn about, on the women's side, because a lot of people don't watch women basketball, doesn't really televise it in a lot of countries or places. So yeah, no, I definitely agree. So Matthew, there's one thing I wanted to clarify, because as a historian, right, especially as you do your research, you tend to fall into inaccuracies, right? I know when I look up history on things that I thought was real, like for example, I thought the Europeans came to North America to help the folks who lived here. Lo and behold, they massacred them, right? So there's things that we were taught in school about history, about different things that come out is like the complete opposite. Was there anything during your research that you found that was so inaccurate, you were like, oh my gosh, all this time I thought this was so-and-so, and that didn't happen? Did that ever happen for any of your research?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I try to practice historiography, and it's a discipline in which, so you take the winning side and then you make sure you find the losing side's account of it, and then you try to bridge the both sides together to get a common ground of truth, because the winners always are going to write it the way that they saw it, and the losers, they're going to feel a little certain way. So you try to bridge them both together to get a real accurate feel of what happened. So, for example, in the early 1900s, there was an account by a guy named Ed Watcher, he's in the Basketball Hall of Fame. And he wrote a article that historians took and said, oh, this is who the best players were. And he basically was asked by Bill McRae, who was the Boston Celtics statistician. He's one of the first statisticians of the NBA. He's in the Basketball Hall of Fame as well. And he wrote a book. And in that book, Ed Watcher he asked who were the best players from the 1890s to the 1930s. Ed Watcher was like a famous basketball player at that time, and he mentioned all these players, about 40 guys. And I kept looking at this list, and I'm like, I'm recognizing the names, and I'm like, I don't see Tarzan Cooper. I don't see Jonathan Isaacs. I don't see Cumberland Posey. These are all black players, for people who don't know, that played during that time. And it dawned on me that this guy, and this is what's crazy, he played against these guys. He lost to these guys, but he purposely withheld their name from this list that he made of the best players of that era. So you run into this a lot, especially during that time with segregation and a lot of things that were going on in the country at that time. He probably felt he was doing the right thing, but if you're a historian and you just read that from one side, you kind of think all these other guys aren't that good. And you find out like very quickly, like that's a really bad take. And like there was way better players than what he was mentioning, but he was just purposely omitting those guys. The Cleo Hill situation in St. Louis Hawks, in which they had drafted the first. He was actually the first rookie drafted from an HBCU. Wow. Cleo Hill. He was drafted in 1961, and he was second HBCU player. He went down to the St. Louis Hawks. They ran into problems. They, in the media, portrayed it as he was a guy who showboated, and that's the reason why they got him removed off the team. He was a malcontent. He wouldn't play within the offense. And then we later find out, as we do more research, that really he was so good that the three players who were white at that time, and two of them I think are in the Basketball Hall of Fame, didn't like the fact that he wasn't giving them the ball in the right times, in the right places, and they felt that he was trying to show them up, and they went to the management and got him removed. So,
wow.
And unfortunately, this guy, Cleo Hill, only played 1 year in the NBA and was basically, no one else would touch him. The NBA also at that time had a what I guess you'd call a silent rule, in which you would only have 3 to 4 black players per team. So
I didn't even know. See, I'm learning this myself. Okay.
Yeah, it was an unwritten rule. 3 to 4 black players per team. They would not go above that. So when you come into a camp and you're counting the black players, and I've talked to black players from that time, and they said you count the black players, you pretty much know if you're in or out, just who's on the team, because even though you might be better than this guy, you know that they're not going to get rid of that guy. They're going to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm.
So these are things that you find out as you continue to research things.
Nelly J, that's a great question. It's a great question.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
So I'm gonna put my I'm gonna just ask about Matthew. I heard about the podcast. First of all, I want you to once again plug the podcast and just give us a little bit of a background to maybe the format of the podcast, what you're looking for, because I'm interested.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm planning the second season of it. What I probably am going to do going forward is I'm going to try to talk less about the NBA draft in parts, and more about I'm more interested in talking to folks as yourself, like about what's your process about covering the Toronto Raptors. What have been your, like, talking to other historians, people who are in the same side of things, and just trying to figure out, like, what were some of the things that you had problems doing? Because I know what I've struggled against, but I'm more interested in hearing the stories from creators, and about the struggles that you guys deal with creating content. So that's probably what season 2 will be more focused on. Season 3 was more of a I guess you could call it rant here, rant there. Where season 2, I think I'm going to be much more directed into, really putting in content that has more of a, I guess, wider lens than just the draft.
Well, I will say this. I love that idea, but I think you're also an educator. So, me, I'm always giving advice, but I would like you to at least have, like, every episode have like a draft highlight. So you can pick, I don't know, one draft story that you think would resonate with the guests. So if we're Raptor fans, like, walk me through when they drafted this player, and like maybe they were a 5-star, but then we saw that they were not a 5-star. So maybe stuff like that, like correlating your guests with like a draft story, that'd be fun too. Because I think for me, like I like to learn about these things. I know when we drafted Bargnani, how my heart sank and how the air went cold and the sky went black and the sun wasn't shining anymore. And but maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe at the time when, you know, maybe our GMs did the best that they could and it was a good draft. I don't know, but it'd be good to kind of talk about maybe like at your guess, which draft pick for your team do you think was the worst and the best? And then you can kind of talk us through maybe like, no, they actually at the time that player was pretty good and you know, so just give some things to think about.
I like that. Thank you.
All right, so let's do a little practice run because I'm interested about Scottie Barnes. You say that you watched Scottie Barnes, like even before the draft. You clearly, Scottie Barnes for me, it didn't fall on my radar until pretty much like the end of the NCAA season. Like I had no idea who this guy was. And there's a lot of talk between should the Raptors get Jalen Suggs or should they get Scottie Barnes
or Kuminga? Kuminga's also
or Kuminga was another one also.
Kuminga was up there. You know, we like Kuminga.
Yeah, so I was more on the Scottie Barnes Kuminga-ish, not so much on the Suggs. But for you, now it's been, you know, he's won Rookie of the Year. He's in his second year. Anything you have in regards to, just tell me anything that you would actually put yourself in the shoes of what you thought in his senior year, just before the draft, and then where you are now with Scottie Barnes, and you know, was it where you thought he would be, and just go from there, real quick.
Yeah, I would say that his progression has been as expected. I don't really, I was really high on him. I just didn't think Toronto was going to take him. I thought, I think during that draft, I think I had Suggs as being the pick.
Yeah,
many people did.
Yeah, right. I mean, and he's good too. Like, wasn't a bad pick. It's just
well, he's not better than Barnes though.
No, he's not.
I got that one wrong. Look, I have no problem admitting that. I got that one totally wrong. So trust me, I'm very open about that. Yeah, totally. I got that one wrong, and I think that's probably the bigger take back about Barnes that I have. I actually, after I got it so wrong, I actually watched a lot of his freshman year at Florida State again.
Yeah.
Just because I was not prepared for him to be that impactful at the NBA level his first year.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of people, I'm more interested in getting it right than saying I'm right. So even though I had him getting picked, I think 5th in my mock and he went 4th.
Yeah.
That to me isn't why I went to rewatch his tape. I went to rewatch his tape because I was like, look, I clearly didn't see the bigger picture here. So let me see what I missed. And I think what I missed most is I just did not catch on film just how dynamic and how committed he is to being the best player. Scottie at times at Florida State was so talented. It didn't even look like he was trying a lot of times. He was so like in a position where like you would see moments of intensity, but it would wane a little bit here and there.
Yeah, we see that too.
Yeah, where in the NBA, you can tell he wants to be the best guy on the team. You can tell.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was not ready to see what that happened. So yeah, hats off. I mean, they hit a home run with that pick.
All right, so let me give you okay, go ahead, Nelly J.
You go ahead. Okay. I have one question because this is something that I thought about it. I brought it up on Clubhouse as well. I don't think you're in the room, but I really think Portland missed on their pick. Yes, everyone likes Shaedon Sharpe, but they could have gotten Walker Kessler. I'm sorry. And I feel like if they had Walker Kessler, think about this, right? If Dame Lillard had a Walker Kessler on this squad right now with Anthony Simons, how much better would they have been with Walker Kessler than Shaedon Sharpe? Shaedon Sharpe is still a good pick. He's high, but I feel like a lot of teams missed on Walker Kessler. Like, your thoughts on that? Do you think he went too low? Do you think, where he went is good enough? Because, other guys are better than him. I just think Walker, you called him out, but I'm surprised he went so low, Matthew. Please give me some comfort here on this, on my thoughts.
Yeah, I think I was trying to tell people I thought Walker Kessler was really good.
He's so good.
I thought he had the shot blocking. I thought he had the defense. I thought he had decent feet to be able to move in transitional D. I thought he had the ability to hit wide open jump shots. I didn't understand why he was going so low.
Okay, that's just me then, because I was like, as the year went on, he's one rookie. I'm like, yo, how did he get drafted so low? He's so good. Like,
he's almost averaging a double-double for people who haven't seen him. He's almost averaged double-double.
Right.
Listen, Matthew, I'm like, Portland Dame could have had his big. He could have had his big, and it would have been beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Nurkic with it. Oh my God. Anyways, for you, I'm sorry. It's a rant I had for him, but I was just like, Walker Kessler went too low for me.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'll close out for the culture, but I got to ask this with Scotty Barnes to give you a do-over. All right. Mm-hmm. So, there's levels. So, you could be an all-star and not make an all-NBA team.
Right.
So I'm going to start with an all-star. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the probability of Scotty Barnes being an all-star?
10.
10. Okay. And all-NBA. I'm talking even third team, just making an all-NBA.
I'd say by the time his career is over, I can see him making 1 or 2. Yeah.
Really? Okay. That's good.
That's fair. Yeah, okay. I see 1 or 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. We'll hold you to the do-over, and we'll see how that
But again, guys, he had Scotty at 5, not 4. I mean, I don't think you were that wrong.
You were not so far close. Off at all. Don't know.
That's so close.
You were not far
off.
I'm
top 5.
But honestly, if somebody would talk to me and I would have said, "Hey, I just don't think he's gonna be immediate out the block," and that's why. That's what I'm saying. Like he's done it. So head off, man.
Right. Appreciate the humility there, Matthew. All right. So let's do this. Let's close out this episode with That's Absurd.
That's absurd, Faheem, bro. What was absurd this month, this year, Faheem? What was absurd?
LeBron James has a son named Bronny James.
LeBron, why are you on our absurd? You've been absurd for at least 2 years now, bro. You've been good for 2 years. We're back on the list again. Go ahead, Faheem.
LeBron, his social media game is solid. He's very active, whether Instagram, Twitter. He did go to Twitter though and back his son, as fathers should do, right? But the tweet, he says, "Man, Bronny definitely better than some of these cats I've been watching on League Pass today. Lightweight, hilarious."
Absurd. Matthew, as the expert, I know how I feel, but maybe, I'm missing something here. Do you co-sign this tweet? And do you think Bronny is not a lightweight? Do you think Bronny is a heavyweight? Please walk us through your thoughts on Bronny and LeBron's tweet.
I've been saying it since ESPN, and I'll say their name, since they did their 2024 mock draft, and they have Bronny, I think, 12th. I don't get it. I don't think I don't even think he's the 12th best player in his high school class. I mean, look, again, and I'm not going to heap stuff on a kid that I think is unfortunately suffering from a father being probably the generation's best player of all time. Mm-hmm. But clearly it's ridiculous, the level that people are pushing the narrative that he's arrived at some elite level. I think he's a very good player. I think he's got a chance to really become a solid contributor at the next level. But this whole narrative that he's already NBA ready, I'm not following. I don't get it.
I think it's interesting, right? I think it's interesting. You know what it reminds me of, Faheem and Matthew? When you watch American Idol back in the day, and that kid would go sing in front of the judges, and they sounded like mid or bad, and we're like, yo, who's their parents? Why would you let your child go on TV and sing in front of everybody, right? Yep. I feel like LeBron is going to alienate his child before he even gets in the NBA, which I think sucks because. No, for me, the issue wasn't LeBron showing support. LeBron, tweet about Bronny all you want. Show his one highlight of him dunking. Show his, him screaming. Listen, I'm all about a father being involved in their child's life. What I'm not about is you force feeding the masses into an agenda like you are CNN, right? Like, I don't understand that narrative. And my other issue that I have is that not only do you want to force feed this narrative, you want to then discriminate or be critical of your fellow NBA players. Like, you know what I'm saying? So what? Everyone playing that night was mid. LeBron, your team is at the time, I think they were 11th seed. So if the NBA has all these lightweights, LeBron, why is your team 11th? Why was your team 10th? Why is your team struggling to make the playoffs? Like, I have many questions, Matthew, but I just think like Bronny's going to do what Bronny can do. He'll try his best. Let's not create this thing because Bronny's not LeBron. When LeBron was in high school, LeBron was him. And I think LeBron, for some reason, thinks Bronny is like how he was. No, LeBron, you're a specimen. You're a specimen, LeBron. I don't think we'll see anyone like you in a long time. So don't think just because Bronny, like get your goggles off, support, cheer him on. But I just think that this is going to put pressure on his son. And again, I just feel like it's going to alienate him from his fellow future teammates. And it's not fair for Bronny. Faheem, to me, it's absurd because none of what he said is absurd because he was so critical of his fellow NBA players. But your team is 10. Go ahead, Faheem.
I think of the pressure. I think of LeVar Ball, for instance. Like when you have a father who puts the pressure on the kid. A lot of people I know didn't like Lonzo or LaMelo, just the balls off of their father, like not so much from a basketball standpoint, but their father, because they didn't like the father, put the pressure on their son. I think like by LeBron adding that additional pressure on Bronny, I think it's kind of unfair. That's one. Also, I think of Dwayne Wade and Zaire. Zaire was very highly touted, coming out, this Dwayne Wade's son, and he hasn't seemed to crack the G League. He did a BAL combine, Basketball Africa League combine with Dwayne Wade a few months ago. But I just think it's really absurd that if you're LeBron, you're going to put the pressure on your son, because at the end of the day, he's going to have to deliver, and if I was LeBron, I think, you might want to take a different path to make it easier for your son, because he's just going to walk around with a target. It's already hard enough with the James name.
He's period. LeBron James' son, his first son. LeBron James Jr., pretty much.
closing out this episode, I just want to ask this. If he wasn't a James, strictly off a basketball scouting aspect, Matthew, if he wasn't a James, what you've already said, you don't know if he's top 12 in his class, but if he wasn't a James, where would you put him, or what would you think?
I mean, probably be
like, is there like from a basketball standpoint, is there anything about it? Because is there anything about his game that's?
I mean, he's
like, what do you think LeBron is seeing outside of him being his son?
His goggles.
I don't know.
He's seeing a blur.
Don't know. Other than I think Bronny plays decent defense. I think he's a solid decision maker on the court when I've seen Bronny play.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no one aspect of Bronny that and like even the guy who wrote the article about Bronny being a top 10 pick in 2024, I asked the guy, I said, well, what's Bronny's NBA skill when he gets on that court? Like, what's the one attribute he has that's NBA quality right now? And he doesn't have any skill like that's at least right now that's at that level. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of players, even players that are really serious in the game, that are 5-star guys, you could be a 5-star guy and not have that one quantifiable NBA skill at that moment. And that's the thing. Like, when you go into the NBA, the game is so fast. Everybody is so good. You got to have something that stands out, whether it's athleticism, whether it's your rebounding, your passing, your shooting. You got to have something that's on that NBA level. And if you don't, what ends up happening is you end up being behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. And that's what I was thinking. Like, maybe they should focus on that and not tweeting about him. Question, right? Out of all the kids out there, like, I want to do a versus, right? A versus battle for, NBA children that's been in the NBA. So let's do Bronny versus Lonzo. Who would you pick?
Lonzo.
Okay. Bronny versus LaMelo. Who would you pick?
LaMelo.
Wow. Okay. Bronny versus Scottie Pippen Jr.
Scottie Pippen Jr.
Lonzo versus Zaire.
Bronny.
Okay, sorry, Bronny versus Zaire. So Bronny versus Zaire. Okay, Bronny. Okay. Trying to think. Anyone else, Faheem, you could think of that's like. Trying to think.
I take Bronny over Michael Jordan's kids.
Oh yeah, all of that. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So at the end of the day, yo, he's being serious, guys. I don't think it's funny, but it's accurate. No, but it to me again is. And what's crazy, so many articles wrote about this. When I Googled it, I was like, oh my God, LeBron created a whole freaking storm. And I could imagine being the mother. I mean, I could imagine what Savannah thought of that. She probably was like, really? But my thing is that, okay, I'm no issue with LeBron tweeting about Bronny. That's his job as a father. But my issue is that you don't have to like bring people down to boost up your child. That's in life, y'all. Like, if you have to be critical of like Faheem to boost up Matthew, or critical of Nelly to boost up Faheem, like that's not like just compliment the person and move on. But when you are critiquing and saying, yo, enough lightweights in the NBA right now, Bronny can so do this, it's like, bro, your team is 10th. You're not even a top seed. Like, I don't know, man. Anyways, right. LeBron, put your phone down. LeBron, put your phone down for a little bit. That's all.
Let's close out this episode, but I do want to ask this on the way out. So with Bronny, they have actually, let me ask this. So first of all, is he declaring in the draft this year, real quick?
No.
Next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's still pretty much in high school, right? He's going to be college next year for him. Yeah.
Next year. Okay. Because I was going to ask, obviously we know LeBron wants to play with his son, which is fair. Why wouldn't he? There's this theory that I've floated around with Dwayne Wade's son, but I think it might be relevant for him also. What do you think of Bronny going to the G League, playing for a G League affiliate of a team, and then LeBron playing like in other words, wherever team LeBron is on, getting Bronny to play for the G League affiliate of that team. So we'll say the Lakers. Say we get Bronny, put him on the G League affiliate of the Lakers, and then the Lakers call him up and he's a Laker and he plays with LeBron. Is there anything illegal with that?
He'd have to be undrafted first. He'd have to go through the draft process being undrafted.
Right. Okay. And he's probably going to get drafted
to a team. Yeah. Okay.
Got you.
Now, I think the most, I don't even know if he's going to go to college. He could end up going to overtime as well, for a year.
I think he should. I think that's good for him. I don't think Brian should go to college. I think his dad has created such a storm. I think he needs actual overtime. I think that'll be a better.
So if he does go to overtime, and then could he declare undrafted at that point? If he goes to overtime? No, he still would have to go through the draft process. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Matthew, with your expertise, right, with the draft, would you recommend Bronny to do like a college stint, like maybe because in college some programs can help you with development. Some coaches are very fundamentally sound. Do you think he should go through the college round to get that team type experience? Because he's been I've heard he's been, so do you think he should go to college round and that poor college coach will have to deal with LeBron? Or do you think he should go to overtime elite and a poor overtime elite folks have to deal with LeBron? Which route do you think he should take if you were deciding for, Bronny?
I think overtime is what I would tell Bronny. I would tell his father the same thing. I think LeBron would have less middlemen to go through. I think he could have a more focused hand on Bronny's development.
Yeah.
If he doesn't like the overtime training coach, he could bring Bronny's. He got all the money in the world. He can bring another and assist Bronny. I just think, and I know this is an unpopular opinion, I just think in the next 20, 30 years, college sports is going to look radically different with more of these. Like, all we need is another overtime to pop up. I mean, right now we have Ignite with the G League affiliate, and now we have overtime. If we get one more, it can really cause some problems for the NCAA.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is going to go away. I think this is going to eventually devolve farther and farther. And I just think in 30 years, I just think things are going to look really different.
Right.
No,
right.
That makes sense. Well, I mean, I just want to send positive vibes to Bronny. I think you're really good. And I really hope that whatever path you decide to take, whether that's basketball, whatever, NBA or not, I just hope that you're happy. That's all I care about, because I just think Bronny has a lot of pressure. So I want to send him positive vibes, despite his father's tweet. I want to send Bronny. I don't want Bronny taking any shade for what his dad did. So I hope Bronny,
I agree with
all the best. Yeah.
Nice. How nice. I like ending the episode on some positivity. So good job, Nelly J. All right. On that note, let's put this episode in the books.
Y'all, that was the Good Rookie Show. So Matthew, as you know, this is the time where we do shout outs. The floor is yours. What you got?
I mean, I appreciate everybody's, support and help me with everything. Obviously, you, Nelly, and Faheem, Chris, Hendo, 94 Feet, Maul, and all those guys. Chris and Hoop Spaces, there's a lot of guys that Malika Walker. There's a lot of people that really help me and support my work. I just want to say thank you and, continue to push forward.
Love that. Oh my gosh. Well, my shout out is to you. I think what you're doing is incredible. It's needed. And I'm just happy that you are filling in the gaps and finding out real stories about a game I think that we all love on this podcast. So big up to you. And of course, shout out to everyone that you shouted out, because all those folks that you spoke about, they're amazing people. So that's really, really great. I also want to do a shout out again to all the Canadians. We got a record of 53 Canadians, 29 women, 24 men in this tournament. So good luck to you guys. Good luck to your squads. And I hope everyone's brackets don't get too mashed up by the time this episode drops. You got it, Faheem.
All right. So first of all, I want to echo what Matthew was mentioning. All those people that are familiar with them know them. So, and we got to respect other content creators. So that's a great shout out there, Matthew. I want to echo also what Nelly J was saying about Matthew himself. For sure. Matthew, we did an episode, I can't remember the number, but I remember Nelly J asked me, hey, you know what, randomly during the episode, what was your favorite episode? And I'm not just saying this here, it's recorded. I said, you know what, when we had Matthew on, that's one of my favorite episodes. So, and I mean, genuinely, I really think, I like talking basketball with you. I think you have a great basketball mind. Obviously, anyone who's listening for the last hour here understands that. You bring a lot of knowledge. And you're doing some real cool things. So with the podcast, I want you to quickly plug the name of the podcast when you get to this episode, season 2 episode. Plug the podcast, and just keep pushing. And I think at this point, let's put this episode in the books.
That's right, y'all. And Matthew, what's your podcast name? What's it called?
It's called On the Wire with Matthew Maurer.
Love it. With Matthew Maurer. Okay. So guys, I'm going to have the website link everywhere. I'm going to have also to the podcast. So I'll put those links up so everyone can follow, support, share amongst our friends and families, y'all. We are creating a content community of content creators. So please support each other. That's the goal, right? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, this episode, y'all, thank you for joining us today, y'all. If you had a good time and you enjoyed yourself, please like and subscribe. And tell a friend to tell 10 friends. Faheem.
We are on all platforms if you're looking for us. You know what it is. It's a Good Rookie Show. And we out.
Peace.